So I was definitely under the impression that Loma was going to get the job done. I just didn't think he was going to get the job done like that. What a performance. Absolutely turned back the clock. So we have Vasily Lomachenko absolutely dismantling George Kambosos Jr. over a period of 10 rounds and then stopping him with a couple of body shots in the 11th, which is the first time that George Kambosos has been stopped. And considering some of the fights that he's been through in the past, like the war that he went through with Teofimo Lopez and then the one-sided beatdowns both times from Devin Haney, and he never touched the canvas during any of that, and it took a 36-year-old Vasily Lomachenko to be able to put him down. Credit to George Kambosos right off the bat. Like we said the other day in the podcast and the clip that was posted to the channel, he's all heart and he was always going to give his absolute best, but Lomachenko came out of the gates firing from round one, which is something that you don't usually see from him. He kind of tends to take a little bit of time to download information, but he came out from round one as the aggressor and started sort of racking up points and rounds while he was downloading all of that information. And by the time I got to the 5th or 6th round, he was just all over. He was just all over George Kambosos. He had no answer for him. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with Kambosos' career at this point in time. Obviously, another step back. He's still only 30 years old, so there's still plenty of time for him to have a decent go at getting another world title, but he's going to have to take a bit of time off and readjust. I think adjusting to a new trainer and a new training style definitely wouldn't have helped going against somebody like Lomachenko. So more time with his trainer is always going to be beneficial to him, like we've seen with somebody like Anthony Joshua, who's just getting better over time, spending time with his new trainer. So, and it's hard to say that, you know, Kambosos looked worse than he did in any of his other fights. Like, he is obviously slowly improving, but so is the level of competition. It's like he didn't look great in the Maxi Hughes fight, and he obviously didn't look great in this fight, but nobody looks good against Lomachenko when he's doing what he does best. And he was just on his game tonight. He's a 36-year-old man. He looked like he was a 25-year-old. He was just bouncing around the ring, absolutely outlanding Kambosos in every round by a substantial margin. And now it seems like he's got a couple of options with what he wants to do. So in the post-fight press conference, we had Bob Arum saying that he would like Lomachenko to be matched up with Shakur Stevenson. And Shakur Stevenson's response is a little bit strange to somebody tweeting and said, Bob said Loma versus Shakur Stevenson next, so who's really calling the shots at Top Rank? And Shakur replies to this by saying, Floyd told me years ago Top Rank don't mess with black fighters. They just use you until they can't use you anymore. Tonight was them trying to make a statement to me, LOL. It says, Bob don't got to say no more. They just letting him believe he run it, but they taking over his company behind the scenes. Bunch of sharks who don't really mess with Bob like that. So not really sure whether he seems too keen on jumping in the ring with an aging Lomachenko at this point in time. After that performance, not many people are going to come flying out of the woodwork to do so because, you know, it doesn't look like he's lost a step. But somebody who does seem keen to get their hands on him is the WBA champion, Gervonta Tank Davis, who replied to somebody saying Gervonta would never fight Vasily Lomachenko. And he says, he's after Frank. Let me get Frank first. So a little more of a definitive answer there from Tank. Shakur seems a little bit ambiguous as to what he actually wants to do, but with Tank fighting, it's only a couple of weeks away at this point in time. So I don't know. If the right kind of numbers are thrown around, then maybe we see Shakur versus Lomachenko announced before that point in time. But if Shakur doesn't want to come to the table, then seems like negotiations are open for a bit of a super fight to happen before the end of the year. And we've already been quite spoiled as boxing fans throughout this year. So just be another one to add to the list, really. Cherry on top. We had a little bit of an interesting conclusion to the Maloney versus Guevara fight, in which it was a pretty much razor-thin split decision. Some people thought Maloney won. A lot of people thought Guevara won. I didn't really watch a lot of the fight, but it seemed pretty back and forth from, I was sort of walking into the room doing something else at that point in time. It seemed like it was a pretty 50-50 fight, so I can't really call it either way. But after hearing that his opponent was announced as the world champion, Andrew Maloney absolutely spat the dummy and said in his post-fight interview that boxing is corrupt, Top Rank is corrupt essentially, and that he's retiring. So very interesting reaction to that. Then, if that wasn't enough, in the co-main event between Shanika Johnson and Nina Hughes for the 118-pound, I think it was the WBC title that they were fighting for. I'm not exactly sure which sanctioning body it was, but that's not the point. When it got to the end of the fight, the announcer read the scores backwards and announced Nina Hughes as the winner, then had to quickly retract that statement and announce Shanika Johnson as the winner. So I don't know if old mate's going to have a job next week. It's a pretty monumental switch up to make on a card like that. You know, telling somebody that they've lost a world title fight, telling somebody that they've won a world title, and then having to reverse that decision. It's like, you know, surely you're going to get a massive talking to, if not seriously considered not having your job again. But I digress. Things kind of went the way that I thought they were going to go, in a sense of I knew Lomachenko was, if he was allowed to do what he does best, he was going to come out and do it, but I didn't think he'd get the stoppage. I just didn't think that he was capable of doing that against somebody like George Kambosos, who's shown his toughness in the past. But at the same point in time, when you've got a precision puncher like Lomachenko in front of you, just hitting those shots consistently one after the other, there's only so much of it that you can take. And that's how he stopped a lot of people in the past. So credit to both guys. Remains to be seen what's going to happen going forward. Obviously, Kambosos has taken a step back. Lomachenko's career is continuing late into his 30s. I'm sure I'll be giving a bit more of a breakdown about this on a podcast later on in the week. But until then, I will speak to you guys soon.